Are we recording right now?
Recording right now?
Oh.
TheraSisters, giggles and glimmers.
Oh my.
Okay, hi. How
Hi.
are you? Welcome.
Yay.
Yes. Where are we today?
We are. I am Catherine Barton, and we're in my basement.
Yes, and I'm Amy Bryan, and we are the
TheraSisters.
TheraSisters. Yes, so welcome to our podcast today. Catherine, just to catch up and touch base.
Yeah.
What's new?
What's new? Oh my.
What are some things you've been up to?
I'm not even sure. I feel like I shared a lot of what was new with me today already. So
Interesting.
looking for a new car.
Okay.
Learning that process. So that's a thing. Learning how to buy a new car so that I can feel confident that I can go in there and do it myself.
Yeah.
And so that's been a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Of like learning all the things, learning the words, learning who I need to talk to first, and then the confidence to go in. I did test drive a car the other day, and the guy was asking me, so what do you want your monthly payment to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to tell them what I wanted my monthly payment to be, so I was like, how do I say that in a nice way that doesn't feel... So anyway, I stood my ground, I was confident, and said, nope, this is how I want to do this, and they were like, okay.
Good job.
Yeah, I felt very proud.
Yes, that's awesome.
So that's something. There you go.
That is something.
Yay.
Yes, I get to go to Chicago this weekend.
Yay!
For RoboCon, and I know, not for me. It's not my brain that got us into RoboCon. It's my son's brain. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that. We're going to spend a couple extra days and get cold in the Windy City.
Yeah,
Windy City, yes.
Cool.
So,
what are we doing today?
We are talking to Barry McClintock. Come
Come on in, Barry.
Thunderous applause.
Join us in our poops.
Yes, in
Get
our
comfy
poops.
in our poops.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss.
Yes.
Oh, yes, it is
Isn't
kind
it
of.
cute?
Like a snuffle. What were those called? Snuffles? Or it was like the scarf. Snarfs? I don't know.
I don't know. All I'm thinking is snuffle up with
Sneeze.
this.
Oh,
Sneeze.
Sneeze are a thing.
Sneeze sounds like it.
Yes, I like it.
Anyway, good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Yay.
Afternoon.
Yeah,
Whatever it
afternoon.
is.
Whatever time it is.
I know. So this is Barry.
Yay.
Yes.
Hello.
So, in true transparency, this is our second time doing our podcast with you, Barry.
Yeah.
Because we are always learning.
Yeah.
And so we really appreciate you coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am always a willing guinea pig.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being that.
Appreciate that.
But tell us again your, way of healing
Yeah.
yourself and others.
So, it's a little multifaceted at this point in my life. I'm kind of in two different ventures. One that is primarily in the spiritual realm,
Mm-hmm.
and one that's primarily kind of in the mental emotional realm.
Okay.
So I own healing spaces with Sean Kitts, my partner, and we offer alternative healing modalities like restorative energy, which is hands-on energy work on a massage table
Okay.
or sitting up. Transformative breath work. I think I can call it that. There's like a style that it's called, but you can't call it that because it's copyrighted. So some sort of transformative breath work. And we offer spatial flow, which is kind of a combo space clearing service and spatial arrangement to just really maximize the energy flow in your home, business, office space, things like that.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm also signing on to be a full-time therapist again. Yes, so finishing some Missouri licensure hours, being a licensed clinician, and helping the people. Hopefully,
helping the people.
Yeah.
Cool. So then, breath work.
Yeah.
Healing, right? Yeah. And mental health healing, and then the spatial. Now, I know you talked about the spatial before about going in and kind of feeling the energy and kind of cleaning out what might need to or heal what's in the environment.
Yeah.
But I don't what is the arrangement piece? Tell me about.
Well, so kind of to give an overview of the service in general is we're really looking at like the energetic imprint or the energetic kind of feel that the space is holding. So if you think about it, like when you're at a party and everybody's kind of like getting together and there's a lot of wild, fun energy, like you can feel that when you step in as the newcomer.
Yes.
You can also feel when you're in like a serious meeting and maybe like somebody was reprimanded, right? And then you kind of come in and there's like this tense energy.
Sure.
These spaces, our surroundings, like hold this energy. Some of our homes have held it for years and years and years, right?
Okay.
I live in a 100-year-old home myself, and so constantly clearing it, but keeping it good. So there's the aspect of looking at what our spaces is holding energetically and hearing the story in that way. But there's also, to me, I think like every object has an energy of itself. And I don't know if this comes from my art background, but there was always this relationship between positive and negative space when you were kind of composing a piece or like looking at a piece of artwork. What's the amount of negative and positive space that you're visually creating for movement of this piece or like for interaction with it? I felt the same with, I guess you could call them inanimate objects. I always call them animate objects because everything has like a life and a soul, you know, and wants to kick it with us. But so there is this energy kind of with each item, and stories attached to each item, right? So our belongings, our attachments to our belongings. And so when we're looking at arrangement, it might be how are we storying the pieces of our environment around us that is continuing or externally showing the story internally.
Okay.
So if I internally really value relationships, can I put pictures of my friends, families, and loved ones up around me to be surrounded by that?
Oh, yeah, I like that. Yes.
Or if I am kind of in this really maybe like low or cluttered state internally, is my external environment also kind of cluttered and filled, right? And so we just kind of come in and help you as a guide feel out what's happening in your space and work with what shows up and what's present.
That's interesting.
Well, and how does that, like, I guess, go along with healing, or how does that kind of incorporate the healing part?
I think it's the first time people can recognize that there's a relationship between you and your environment, that we're constantly relating with one another. And so our homes are here to support us, right? Our spaces are here to help uplift us if they can.
Yes, and feel safe and secure. Yeah.
Right. And so it's this first look of awareness for individuals to be cognizant of like how they could be contributing to their mental health, their emotional well-being through just the physical aspects of what's around them.
Sure.
And it's a good external cue to see what's happening with you inside. You know, if I've got a messy home, what's happening inside that I'm like not really having the energy to go and clean it up or pick it up,
or even the connection, right, to certain pieces, or perhaps the unwillingness to release pieces.
Yes.
So I'm curious. I have some family members who have a hard time releasing objects.
Yeah.
And so is that something like if you went and had this energy, do you think that, I don't know, there could be a better explanation for that person of why they might be holding on to something and how to help them transition from holding on to it?
I think the magic and the specialness of like feeling the energy helps open the conversation.
Okay. Yes.
Right? Whereas like somebody who kind of comes in and is organizing may have an agenda of like, all right, we're going to get rid of this, we're going to do this, we're going to add that.
Yeah.
And many don't, right? That's not really the most ethical way to practice. And I think that's been, looked at over the years. But I think the magic behind this is creating the space for a conversation to take place, for a pause, for things to just be looked at with a more critical eye.
Yes.
And so it would really just be helping that individual by asking questions, right? And opening the space of why is this important?
And then also the energy that you're picking up too, you can maybe provide some kind of insight or clarity.
Yeah, because sometimes we don't know that there are these stories or attachments to these items or just the way that we're being with our spaces. And so I might pick out a piece and be like, what's this trunk that's like in the middle of the room? And like, actually that was my dad's and it was like really intrusive in my life. And I'm like,
interesting.
and look at how much space it's taking up in the living room right now. and they're like, "Whoa, get out of here!" You know. So that has happened.
Yeah.
You know, or like
Yes.
there have been pieces where like the bedroom furniture was from a parent, and it was like, so mom and dad are like in the bedroom with us right now. And they're like, "Oh no!" They're like, "Okay," so they're like, buy all of this, and that's, you know, it's not the intention to spend money, but it's the intention to think what felt wrong, and now that I understand a little bit more, what are the changes that can take place?
That makes sense.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it really is so cool. And then there's the breath work, and Sean mostly does that.
Sean does the breath work,
Okay. Yes.
and that really is, I think, as far as I've experienced it, it's just a safe way to kind of subtly be in this transcendental state that releases the need for our protective parts and defense mechanisms to allow them to kind of step back in a safe and gentle way so that we can get to the healing underneath, right? And IFS, we would say the exiles beneath the protectors, or the inner child wounds, however you want to name that. We do a lot around barricading and creating safety so that those parts don't get touched. And sometimes talk therapy still provides the mechanisms and modality to talk about the protection around it. And the breathwork really just gently dips you into, here's the stuff, here's what's here. And you can just release it. It's more of a physical somatic release and an experience that doesn't necessarily have to cognizantly be like felt or processed. And I think that's where sometimes we get stuck, right? So like Peter Levine talks about the polar bear that gets like tranquilized to do test studies on. Once it wakes up, when it's returned to its environment, it just shakes it off. It's like, whoa, you know, it's not going to wake up tomorrow and feel like it's our tranquilizer somewhere in the area. It's going to be like, well, we'll do the day. And I think where we get stuck as humans with this wonderful, beautiful prefrontal cortex and all of the ways that we can think about things, there's like that analysis paralysis, right? And so anytime that I think that we can gently shut that off and get the wisdom of the body, which is mostly just wanting to release, to turn on, powerful opportunities.
And also just the release. So you're kind of softening, those barriers so that that information is more accessible. And then also just all of that's been held in is getting released too.
So the physical energetics, the mapping system of the body is that there is this fear belt in between this area of like the heart and lung space and more of the deeper diaphragm area. So a lot of us don't allow our breath to get deeper into and past that fear that we hold on to, right? So we have a lot of anxiety symptoms in the world.
The breathing part
comes in. So that deep breathing is literally shoveling and excavating those deeper held emotions that we just don't tap into as much.
Yeah, it took me a minute, but
it's all about opening space.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And then we do the energy work, which is on, so it's either, so restorative energy is all about utilizing what's called like universal life force energy. It's like, we all have it. It's what animates and creates like life, right? And that's the other thing with breathwork is like breath equals life. I think there's like the root of the word is something like life. Sean conversation. I guess I'm real smart. Like the root of breath is life. It probably is, but I don't recall it as exactly as that. So what we're doing with the energy work, and I've thought about this so differently over the years. When I first started, it was like, oh, I'm working with the chakras and like this energy, the subtle energy in the body. And that still is the thing. But there's also just this importance now in my life and in my journey with this healing modality to create safe physical touch. Because through safe physical touch, our body has the chance to rest and to pause. And when we think about things like the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, the whole catchphrase, at least what I was learning in bios, which I got to see, so like, I at least remember this part, but was like rest and digest, right? So like that was the most important part, I think, for the parasympathetic, because the other thing was like parasympathetic, paramedic, so they come in afterwards and help you out. So there was all these little catchphrases. But So rest and digest is so important exactly for those two words. For our body to no longer be in this hyper arousal state, or for it to come up in a safe fluctuated way from hypoarousal.
Okay.
Because when we're in our, what's it called? Like your norm state, there's like a word.
Our norm state.
Homeostasis.
Homeostasis.
Oh, there you
When
go.
you're
Good
in,
job.
thank you.
Yes.
It takes a trio. When you're in this like homeostasis state, your body just kind of naturally knows what it needs to do to start the healing work.
Okay.
And sometimes that is, I just have more space to think about to go into my mental energy and think about things that I've blocked off from several years. Or I have the space now to let my emotions come up and be felt and released.
Oh, yeah.
Or my body physically is now no longer inflamed because it's rested.
Yes.
And I'm just in less
it's
pain.
not all tight.
Yeah. So it's a very like a multi
prong
something, type of working with mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, yeah. So is it similar? I guess I'm envisioning like Reiki. You know how people go over the body, I guess.
Yes.
Is it similar?
It is very similar.
Okay.
It is hands-on, and it can also be hands-off.
Okay.
I really prefer hands-on because, again, I'm about creating that safe and what are the words here that I'm looking for? Reparative.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
Experience with touch.
Yes.
I lost what I was saying because I was thinking of the word reparative.
Oh,
so it can be hands-on and it can be hands-off. So it's trauma-informed in that way. And we also I went to Kansas City over the weekend. It was like an 8-hour drive there and back. But I got a table that now inclines.
Oh, okay.
And so if there is trauma with laying down, right, in the vulnerable position that is and calls for, then you can be reclined.
Okay.
And we don't even have to touch.
Even practice maybe work towards that laying down.
You've got it.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was very excited to get that table because I want to provide this as this adjunctive service in mental health. Because I think the paradigm of mental health has created enough safety for for society in general to lean in and be like, this is the thing that's like helpful and it's a thing.
Right.
And there's more than one thing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Right.
There's more than one way to get healing.
Right. And I think these alternative modalities are coming online for people to be like, that's also a thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to make sure that I can pair it with these other paradigms that currently exist in a grounded way so people get it.
Yes.
And
I can see where that touch is really helpful for people who have experienced touch trauma, right, of some sort, whatever way it was, so that they can accept that kind touch and that safe touch. And because there is something, right? Don't we need to be hugged like so many times a day? And there's been studies about it.
And I've worked with survivors of sexual abuse who experienced possession, and then now they know their body's capacity a bit more. So they'll go back with their partner and they'll say, okay, this area feels, I know, it's so emotional. It's like, this area feels safe and this area doesn't. And this is how you can come towards me. And then there's repair in the relationship. It's like so deep, man. Deep, man. But that's why I love this work, because every session, every moment is so different and tailored and special and safe.
Yeah.
It's a soul meeting another soul, and we're all just walking each other home, and we're just trying to figure out the best way to exist while doing that.
Yes. I like it. Good stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. And so will you be bringing that into your counseling on some level? Or?
It's a conversation of like how that takes place. I think that through experiencing this over the years, I have some ability to mentally or guide somebody mentally through working with their own energetic system, right, through mental imagery or through guided meditation, so that the touch aspect is not necessarily something that has to be experienced, at least under the guides of counseling and the guidelines and everything else that are there for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think that as an adjunctive service for like maybe clients in the practice or clients that another practitioner is seeing, to be able to experience this, and for us to share notes and resources and sessions. I think that this is a way then for the client to experience a deeper moment or a different way of feeling or being with themselves when possible, when they feel safe and comfortable. So it's like in works. It's in the works. But it's like, okay, if not mine, then like your clients, right? Or like clients for the community. So
I'm already thinking of people. I know. I am too.
That'd be so great.
And I think, it's so interesting because I think about couples, right? And that's the work that you do. When I was at a fair this Easter weekend in St. Charles at the Ameristar Casino, there was a mom and a son. And it was the first underage individual that I had the opportunity to provide this practice for. Because I'm, like adults and up, because we all, know what we need to do. But this boy was like, I want to do this. I saw you guys. I want to like hang out. And I was like, you're so cool. I can't say no. You're so cool. And so I said, but Mom, you can be present, just for all the consent reasons and just so everybody knows what's going on. But it was so powerful to have her there watching the experience, watching her son rest, watching her son be with himself in this way. And it was powerful for her to see him, different, and for just the whole experience to happen. And so I just wonder about couples experiencing that, right?
That could be pretty,
and if I create this tension with my partner, if I can learn how or see how that can be mitigated in any way, what a powerful healing experience.
Well, even just seeing that tension in a different way.
Yes.
It's something that makes so many of my clients, even before I approach my partner, I'm already tense.
Yes.
Right? And so I bring that tenseness to the conversation when I'm not even realizing it, or maybe my partner has no idea that I'm already tense or nervous coming to them. But like putting it in this different space, this different perspective of like, what do we do with this?
Yes. Creating intentionality around it and safety around it.
It's so great.
Just seeing a partner deeply breathe.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? There's so many possibilities for this experience.
So
it's really cool. And it's cool to be in, it's cool to have a toe in both worlds, because then I get it, it's like, God, that sounded so judgmental. I was about to say, because I'm not putting anybody, I'm not like the weekend practitioner. I'm like saying that, like, I'm like, oh, I'm attention, I'm like, like I've worked at this 8 years, and I've also worked in the mental health field, and so I'm seeing how these things work together. And we have the modality of like somatic experiencing, which recognizes the importance of bringing the body online in this up-down way. So, I just think it's so cool to have a toe in both worlds and try to blend them, because I think it's possible. I think it's necessary.
Well, I do. Yeah, I was going to say it's definitely possible, and I think it's definitely important, because the more this mental health awareness is accepted and people are getting the help, but our minds and bodies are connected, and our spirituality, right? It's all connected. Our body's telling us things, our mind is telling us things, and
and there's something about the spiritual practices that, so you don't even have to be spiritual, I think, right? I think what the spiritual practices provide is that moment of pause for the body wisdom to kind of like just come online, or to be present, because so many, especially in our Western world, of our practices in our day-to-day life is mental, and is being on a screen, or being in our mental energy, being in our brain, our mind,
and being emotional is not strong, right? And then I'm sure the spiritual piece of it too, people could take it however, but it could also have a negative connotation.
Oh, you're just woo-woo out there. We're all one.
Yes.
I mean, we are, but like still. You don't have to be fully on board to at least allow these like meditative or mindful practices to be a part of Western living, right?
It can be all the things.
Right.
It can be.
Yes. Well, not appropriated or anything like that, but like incorporated, and we can learn from that.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think society too is, we're kind of taught to ignore our bodies, or we're taught to ignore some of our instincts, or we're taught to, I'll give you something to cry about, or push that down, or, like emotions aren't safe.
Right.
So don't talk about them, or don't show
They're
them.
uncomfortable.
They're
I don't want to be uncomfortable.
So it's like bringing it up to the forefront so that it's okay.
Yes.
It's natural.
Yes.
Please, can we embrace them and understand them?
And I think that women in our society have provided such a great space and path for us to follow around.
Thank you.
Yes, tapping in and tuning into the importance of that. And so it's really important now to bring men online and to say, this is a path that's valuable.
Yes,
we want to give them that space.
Like, I am trying to teach my young son, like, it's okay to cry and feel and express and to hold that, you know, and
And sometimes being so out of the like men's sphere, even though I'm male presenting myself, like I'll still hear the conversation centered around like, it's okay for men to cry. And I'm like, yo, still here with that, but we are. And so it's like, okay, cool. Let's dive into that then. And anytime a man is on the table or comes in to do healing work with healing spaces or just therapy, I'm like, let's do this. You know, such opportunity because men really are the containers, the holders, that masculine energy, which we all have, is to contain and direct and to guide and to move things forward. So if we have this energy that's like moving us all forward in some way, why not do it with this like mindset of like wholeness and collaboration, equality, emotions, like that we're all connected in this way that's not where we maybe still are with like defense and attack and like you know what's mine and what's yours and it's not working. That's how I bow to the women that have opened this door to say like this is important and like listen, you know.
And you're sharing it to them. You're also part of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, it's good.
Well, I'm curious your guys' perspective on because I love the idea of making that space and making that comfortable and bringing it, giving it its space, I guess. I'm also curious about the time and space for it, you know, because are there situations where it doesn't feel appropriate or situations where it feels like, I guess I'll just be honest of where this is coming from. Like my husband and I talk about this a lot in the sense of he owns a business and he has people that work for him and sometimes they come to him with like personal stuff or they struggle like maybe on the job and have something come up. And it's like, oh my gosh, we need to get through the day. We have a job to get done. How do we get to the end of the day? Right? Like, and so we kind of go back and forth of these ideas of like, even raising our daughter and teaching her to be productive and get through a day and also being able to have those emotions
to honor
and
those
how do they show up
and
you know, like, is it okay to be emotional in the middle of the day at work when you're in an office or when you're, you know, on a job site or whatever it is, right? And so what do we do with that? You know, because I'm someone who like you said earlier, I cry kind of personally. I cry in my car by myself, you know, or I cry in the shower, or when I find someone who I'm comfortable with, I give them a hug and I can cry with them, you know. And so I don't know. I guess I don't know where this is going, but like just
it makes
your
me
thoughts
think about how to integrate it into leadership aspects, right? And so like how we respond to when it comes and shows itself. So it's really important for then the leaders of like a business. Or just anybody really that you're working with or alongside, but in how we respond and how we're just aware that it showing up is not such a detriment or such a problem, and just providing a moment of space to be like, got it, I see you, I understand, let's chat about this, you know, like whenever, like, you know, whatever that works. And let's still get through this day. It's such a different, opener.
It's not a dismissal,
not even
right?
This is not
just go ahead, right?
Yes.
Just do your work and then you can deal with it.
Right.
It's more of like, I hear you. You're having a hard time. I'm here. Let's just sit for a moment. If you need to take a breath, and then come back in, right? So it's honoring that emotion. Could we have more of that?
Right. I know. And that comes from understanding the importance and building the foundation that of the importance of it, so that when the awareness is needed, that's what's drawn on, and not the trauma responses, right? Which are what we live through, and I think as a society, it just continue to push forward of like the stop crying or like that's weird, or it's like, oh, this is a thing. I may not even know how to respond. It's like the Brene Brown combo, like, I'm not really sure what to say right now. I'm just so glad that you've shared that.
Yeah, exactly.
What I mean, like, just in my body when I hear that, I feel like, okay, I can get through it because we all have our resources. We all have, we can all do this. We've got our capacities and capabilities, And I think we should all really truly rely on ourselves and trust on ourselves more than we do.
Yeah.
But just to have been able to be witness for a moment, if that's what you need to move forward, or to know, like, all right, we're going to pencil it in on Tuesday, like in our one-on-one, it's important. I matter. I'm still valued. How much more if we need it, like productivity, you know, and like in work-based stuff can happen and take place in a.
Well, and then too, you're just, I mean, if we're gonna be basic work, you know, outside of the work that we do, but you know, you're gonna be more efficient and
That's
effective.
What I mean. Yes.
If you can have that moment in that space and you feel heard and you know?
And the trauma response is, oh my gosh, this is going to be something so much that I have to carry, when it may just be that the person just needed somebody to witness them.
Exactly.
So if there's the education and importance centered around like why that's coming up and why it's important and how to respond, it's no longer, I think what happens is the receiver feels all this pressure and anxiety of like, what do I do now? And if I don't have that backing and support and importance of my own self and my own stuff, and I don't do it with my own self, somebody coming to me, that's like, whoa, I don't know what to do at all with you. And so I think that's where that can kind of help ease that tension too, as the receiver. Sometimes all we just need is the moment.
And I think if we give more opportunities to have those small moments, then they don't turn into big moments. You know, like if I could have 10 small moments, I'm not going to have this giant moment that like, you know, incapacitates me for a day or something, you know, like I can't get out of bed. You know?
And so, falling off, and now there's like all this restructuring.
Where it's like, okay, 10 small moments.
It builds up.
Well, and I think that piece too that you shared, where if it's the receiver, you know, if it's like, that's not my problem. You know, don't bring that here. And if that, maybe if the culture changes that to the sense of like, oh, it can be okay, I see that. We'll give it a little bit of space and we'll continue and finish our day.
And it's twofold responsibility. So there's the responsibility of the receiver to kind of learn and be okay with and understand response. And there's a little responsibility of the asker, right? Around like, I just need a moment to like get this out, and then I'm gonna be good, you know, instead of just like coming with a thing. It's not gonna alarm anybody. And I'm guilty of that too. I'll go in an office door like, ah! And they're like, what do I do? I'm like, oh, I just need you to live. I'm good. Like, I'm out.
I need this moment.
I'm not meaning to dump all this on you. I'm just,
And I think we've seen that shift in therapy. With how we even respond to things as therapists. You know, are you needing space? Are you needing a response? And how we teach that to couples, you know, and how we approach one another. It's all intermingled.
Yes, it is. It is.
Just how do we transport it and understand it and get on board?
Yes. We got a lot of work to do still.
A little bit.
Luckily, we enjoy it.
We do. Yes. And I enjoy these conversations.
Well, so kind of the next kind of part of this is just like moving and talking about. We got so like into it. It's so good. Just and like glimmers. Moments where you've noticed some glimmers.
Tell us some recent glimmers.
Oh man.
Or your heart swelled, or you recognize some growth in yourself.
I think this counts. I was watching a show on Netflix. It's called Baby Reindeer.
I saw it. I haven't watched it. Is it okay? I'll check
it's wild.
Okay.
It's kind of along the lines. It's not as dark and like wild and out there as like the show You.
I never watched that.
The stalker show. It is about stalking, but it's also about like grief and reparative and men's issues and like all these things. Baby Reindeer is so good, and there's some traumatic things that happen in there, and there's warnings, and so it's not maybe something to just jump right into. But there was this moment where the son had experienced something traumatic and was really afraid to share it with the parents. And when he shared it, he said, I didn't want you to think less of me. And the dad had a similar experience. But it had this hard exterior that the son was afraid to ever share because of it. And the dad looked at him and said, if I told you that the same had happened to me, would you view me as less of a man? And I'm like sobbing. And the son was like, well, I don't really know what you mean. And then it clicked, and he was like, oh. And there was this connection and this hug and this repair. And it was so powerful. I was like, that's the thing,
I know that's awful.
Yes.
It's so simple, but yet it is so hard,
Yeah.
you know? Oh,
And there's this saying, you know, that like we yell because our hearts are so distant from each other.
yes,
Yeah.
I've heard
You know,
that.
and it's like
Yeah.
seeing the hearts come closer
I
and
know.
connect. And so it was so wonderful because it was wonderful to both experience and see, but it was also to think like this is out here for anybody to pick up and watch.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so like that this is where
To
we are
have that, you can
going.
see that.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. To have those stories to make it a little more, to normalize it.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Somebody can see themselves in that story right there.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this was a true story.
Okay.
And so it's really cool to like have that shared experience from that individual's bravery as well.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. It is very brave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like last night. So I was like sobbing, eating banana pudding ice cream, like Bluebell, which like inflames my body, but I couldn't help it. I was like, I'm awake today. I'm like burning, but it's like it was good.
It was a moment I needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Those are good moments. Yeah. I'm trying to think of glimmers. Any glimmers?
Glimmers.
I'm sure. Sometimes
We
I
have
can't.
so many. We just shared so many today already.
Like, what else?
More glimmers. Glimmers. Yeah. We'll come up with something. Got some giggles.
Lots of giggles.
Lots of giggles.
Yeah.
I know. Quiet moments. Oh my gosh. We hang out too much. I couldn't imagine not hanging out. There's a glimmer right there.
That felt very connective, even though it was kind of like, oh my gosh, get out of my head.
I was just so wonderful. I was so grateful to be a part of it.
Yes. And then we just have to practice saying, Jinx, you owe me a Coke. Is that what it is? Yeah.
She'll just come with like a 12-pack one day.
We'll just say,
here's the back.
Oh, good. Well, then let's move to the next one. Yes. You picked
a question.
Question.
All right, let's shake it up.
Yeah. Use your energy.
ASMR moment.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what this one is. Ooh, it's a number 6. Which is about healing.
Number 6.
How do you define wellness?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It's a big one.
It's quite in depth.
Yes.
Okay, 6. All right, let's see. Wellness. I think I talked a little bit about this on our first attempt.
Yes.
But I'm also developing this theory for myself too, that like wellness, if we think about wellness as this like teeter-totter, wellness is the ability to, and on each end of the teeter-totter is like highs and lows, love and fear, happy and sad, these extreme kind of polarized experiences, emotions, thoughts. Wellness is the ability to kind of come to center and let that teeter-totter be at balance. And if we find ourselves on either end, to let ourselves be a little labile, be a little kind of out there and all over and experience these extremes, but to remember that when there's a down, there's something that's going to push us and kind of bring us back to the up. And so to allow this back and forth motion, because I see in so many clients and individuals on the table that there's this tension and struggle and fight that like, I'm not always on the high end. I'm not always in love. I'm not always, you know, one with the universe and a being of spiritual greatness because I've experienced something like grief, you know, or I'm just having a human emotion. And it's like, if we can take away the tension and the, what are the words? Like, almost like shame, expectation, right, around the rigidness, around like what experiences should control, then I think that we can just invite more self-compassion or just compassion in general into our daily experiences so that we can better come back to balance more quickly, more gracefully. You know.
Yeah, so in a sense, having plasticity
Yes.
and not getting stuck. So having the ability to move
Yeah.
in and out of those emotions or places.
Yes. Without that
With
like
more
critical
ease.
eye or
Yes,
narrative
yeah.
inside.
So an
But with this
acceptance,
compassion of like,
yeah.
oh, I'm in this place again.
Oh,
There's going to be another up, you know?
Instead of like, I can't believe I'm in this other
Yes.
place again. I'm such an
Yes.
idiot.
Yes.
It's more like, oh, okay, I'm here. I've been here before.
Yes.
I'm strong and I will get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that window of tolerance that we work on with clients whenever, you know, we're hyper aroused, that we can do our things, whatever we need to do, to extend that window a little bit.
Yeah,
I think that's where I was headed.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I lost the explanation at the end.
No, but instead of like wellness is, you know, you have this routine or
Yes.
you know, whatever. But no, I like that kind of compassion of self.
Yes.
Right?
We hear a lot of wellness stories at the end of their journeys.
Oh,
and so
true.
there can
Good
be
point.
this fixation on that's where I need to be. But we forget the journey that got that individual who's, you know, bravely sharing.
Right.
We forget the things that got them
Yeah,
there.
and they're going to have another journey.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, sure. Maybe
Always.
they made it through a cancer scare, or
Right.
and yay, and there are all these things, and but then there's going to be something else down the line, and yeah, hopefully that compassion is there, and this kindness. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And I like the visual, you know, just kind of being able to visualize it in that way. It feels good.
Because really, if you have the teeter-totter and then you put the infinity symbol, then there's no end.
You're right.
Then there is the ability to fluidly move between, you know, and hopefully find yourself in the center more times than not, so that you can be the observer rather than the reactor.
Yeah.
But, you know, to notice that it's just a slide. All right, I'm going to slide on back. Come on back.
Yes. Now, I like that infinity piece, though, where it is kind of this ongoing, and there's that center piece where it does all connect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point of balance.
Yeah. That could be those moments where it's, you know, those moments when you sit there and you're just like, everything is in this moment. Like everything just feels nice in this moment.
Yeah.
And, you know, they can be fleeting, but like being able to just even be in that middle of that infinity sign for a moment and be like,
yeah.
Yep.
My uncle used to teach me to reach for contentment. And for the longest time, I was like, what? Like, content? Like, that means I'm okay with the house I have now. You know? But like, that's what we really call in, like, gratitude.
Yeah. In our world, contentment is not enough, right? You have to have more of something. You can't just be okay with something. I know. I love it.
Yeah.
Good job, Barry. I love that.
Thank you
I love that. Is there anything you want to promote, or is there any way people can find you so they can get this healing?
It's a great question.
Okay.
So I'm not sure when I'll start at my practice at Open Arms Wellness. I'll be in between the Baldwin and Brentwood office.
Okay.
But I think if anybody's in need of therapy, you don't know me, then we can, you know, maybe get started if we're a good match. But with Healing Spaces, we're not currently housed in an office. Our space closed in January that we were working out of. So we're kind of just riding a wave of looking at what that looks like. We're going to fairs and showing up in that way. But we're at www.healingspacesllc.com.
Okay.
And we offer spatial flow services on Saturdays. We have discovery calls 2 nights a week for that.
Okay.
And really, when we pop up at a fair is when you can experience the restorative energy at this time.
All right.
We've thought about a mobile service.
Any fairs coming up?
The next one is in Tennessee that we'll be in, so not here, but at the end of this year in October.
Okay.
Is which I think I can talk about. I never know. I'm always an open book. People are like, "Hello, that was the secret." In October, there is a fair. I can't think of where it is right now.
Okay.
But it's with the Casey Metaphysical Fair. So that's kind of who we've partnered with to do some of their fairs.
Oh, okay.
They were the ones who put on the one at Ameristar, and so there's this one in October that is somewhere. It's in the St. Louis area though. So
and you'll have it on your website.
I will try. Yes, I'll put it on the website. I'll put it on our socials.
Okay.
So our socials are, you know, Instagram and Facebook, Healing Spaces LLC.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Look forward to it.
I know. I'm excited.
Thank
All
you.
good things.
Thank you.
Yeah, well,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
we're happy you
Sean
joined
is
us
with us in
again.
spirit.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
what about you, Amy? Do you have anything coming up?
Nothing really business-wise, just still doing the individual therapy for people, helping them, and, RoboCon. Yeah. You? You've got...
Well, yes, I do actually have a Hold Me Tight.
Yes.
Couples workshop in June.
Yes.
Andrew Frager and Anna Kisting were 3 couples therapists. We love emotionally focused therapy, and so we decided to do a Hold Me Tight together, the 3 of us.
Yes.
And it's going to be a magical weekend of connection and just learning how to understand each other better. And it's in St. Peter's at Anna Kisting's Cozy Chair Counseling space.
Awesome.
So you can find that on my website. You can find that on all of my stuff, Instagram and all that.
Yep.
So
and you can always look out for your guys' reels.
Oh, yes.
This today.
Yes, it's a good one.
So, all right. Like and subscribe. TheraSisters STL podcast.
Yeah.
Giggles and glimmers.
Toodles.
Yay. Good job. 42 minutes.
Nice.
Oh, really?
Perfect.
See what?
And that you guys would keep